Josh the Green Goblin Emmett is back to fight the 26-year-old phenom Ilia Topuria in what is probably the epitome of a mirror matchup. Both guys short and stubby kings, and they both have a ton of KO power in their hands. It's going to be fireworks. We have a guy in Josh Emmett that just fought for the interim belt, aka the fraud belt championship of the UFC. Josh Emmett is one of the biggest frauds ever. I don't know how he's still ranked near the top 5. It just doesn't make any sense to me at all. The guy's, he doesn't even have a fucking win since who? What's the last legitimate win that Josh Emmett has? I'm trying to think, actually. What is it, like Mirsad Bektik or Michael Johnson? The guy's had robbery after robbery after robbery. The fact that he's still at the top of the division is a disgrace. And another thing that I have to say is, I hope to God that the UFC is not going to give Ilia Topuria a title shot from beating a guy in Josh Emmett. That would piss me off so much, because we just saw Yair Rodriguez get a title shot off of the 38-year-old fraudulent Green Goblin Josh Emmett. He's been scamming his way to the top, and because he has a lot of power in his hands, the UFC says to themselves, this guy is going to, make really good fights. It's going to be dynamite every time. We may as well make it so that he's the big test. He's the guy that's the gatekeeper to a title shot. But thankfully, are a lot of other guys in this division, and it's pretty stacked now. I think that Ilia's still going to have to get one more win after beating someone like Josh Emmett. Now, I do need to say, though, even though Josh Emmett is 38, he's still dangerous, because I was going to make this video and completely doubt his chances to get this win. I was going to sit here and say, he's got no chance. He's a dead man walking. But then I rewatched some of his fights, and at first, as expected, I wasn't impressed at all. But then I rewatched his most recent fight against Yair Rodriguez. And although he got completely messed up and had absolutely nothing for Yair throughout every single second, all but one, he did have that one moment. And that was against Yair Rodriguez in the first round, I believe, where he caught Yair with a massive shot. And I was thinking to myself, no one else is eating those shots. It was kind of similar to the Marvin Vettori and Jared Cannonier fight, where Jared Cannonier kept landing these fight-ending blows on the chin of Marvin Vettori, right on the button. And he landed these hooks right on the button of Yair Rodriguez. And the only reaction he got was Yair stumbled back, and that was it. He was fine right after. And Emmett, here's the thing about Josh Emmett. When he hurts guys, because he has hurt people, he's dropped them left and right. I don't really see a great ability to finish guys off after he drops them. Like, he had nothing for Yair on the ground at all. I saw him drop Dan Ige, and he just had nothing for him on the ground. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see Josh Emmett having a great ability to finish someone once he rocks them. But I just wanted to bring up that moment, because if he hits Ilia Topuria with those shots, Ilia's going out. But the reason why I bring that up is because if Josh Emmett hits Ilia Topuria with those shots, Ilia's probably going down. So there is a good chance, well, not a good chance, but there's a chance that Josh Emmett could knock Ilia out. I think we're all aware of that. I'm just going to get it out there. He's got a chance. 38-year-old guy's got a chance, but he's probably going to lose. You know what I mean? Because even though he could KO Ilia Topuria, I feel like people have this misconception that Ilia has no chin. And I just disagree with that, because when he fought Jai Herbert at 155 pounds, which is a weight class above what he's fighting Josh Emmett at, Jai Herbert is a freakishly long guy for the lightweight division. The guy has like one of the longest reaches, and he's one of the taller guys in that division as it is. And it was just really hard to get around that guy's range. And the shot that dropped Ilia Topuria in that fight was a flush head kick right to the chin. And then he got caught with like a knee that knocked out his mouthpiece at the end of the first round as well. But he took some pretty big shots after he got dropped, and he took some pretty big shots before he found the finish in the second round, and he was just fine. Bryce Mitchell landed a head kick, a flush head kick on Ilia Topuria. He landed a 1-2 right down the pipe after that, and then landed a solid shot, to follow it up right before Ilia Topuria dropped him, and it didn't affect him at all. So Ilia Topuria, although he doesn't have the best defense, he doesn't have the best head movement, he is pretty fucking tough. And on top of that, he's got one hell of a gas tank. I don't think I've ever seen Ilia Topuria get tired. You know what I mean? And his ability to recover is a testament to that gas tank. When he got dropped by Jai Herbert, he came out in the second round as if nothing had ever happened. In his first fight in the UFC, where he went to a decision, it was a high-paced fight where there was a lot of grappling, a lot of wrestling exchanges against Yusuf Zalal. And he was the guy that was getting his hand raised at the end of it because he withstood the storm. Like, the guy has got a really good pace. He's tough as nails. He's hungry as fuck, 26 years old. And Josh Emmett has shown quit. And I'm just going to point this out, bro. Josh Emmett, I think he kind of wilted and quit against Yair Rodriguez. The reason why Josh Emmett got submitted by Yair Rodriguez was because he was complacent on the ground, and I think he mentally gave up. That's right. I think he quit against Yair. And what led to it was that fight-ending combination that he landed on the chin of Yair, and when it didn't put him away, he just had this look of bewilderment on his face, like, what the fuck do I have to do to put this guy away? I don't think I could stand with Yair for 5 rounds. This guy's too much. You know what I mean? Like, he landed those shots, and then Yair landed a head kick on him, and Yair lands his, flashy body kick. And he's just looking like, fuck, man, I can't deal with this. I saw no hustle whatsoever from Josh Emmett in the guard of Yair Rodriguez. And he wasn't even like that hurt when he got there. Yair had landed a couple of good knees on him, and then they went to the ground, and Josh Emmett just kind of accepted getting submitted. You know what I mean? And I think the reason why that happened was because he landed those massive shots to the chin of Yair, and it didn't put him away. And when Josh Emmett cannot have success with his bread and butter, which is landing those powerful shots, he ain't going to win the fight. He doesn't have that kind of output. He doesn't have the kind of variety or the submission game or the offensive grappling game to go to anything else. So it's like he has one way to win. And if that's not working, you could see it on his face. He's bewildered. He's pissed. You know what I mean? He looked extremely disappointed, and he didn't look like he wanted to be there midway through the second round against Yair. Rewatch that fight. Look at the guy's facial expression a couple minutes before he ends up on the ground with Yair Rodriguez. And against a guy like Ilia Topuria, that if you hurt him in the first round, is going to be bouncing back in the second round with pep in his step, with hustle. He's going to be jumping off of the stool, getting ready like nothing happened. That could break someone like Emmett. And another thing that I want to mention is Emmett doesn't wear damage well at all. This guy has to eat through a fucking feeding tube, basically, after every single one of his fights. Ever since the Shane Burgos fight especially, where he had a complete tear of his ACL, where he ripped up his MCL as well. I think he broke his orbital bone in that fight too. The guy doesn't do well in these scraps. Like, his body just doesn't make it to the end in decent condition. You know what I mean? And I bring up the age, 38 years old, for the featherweight division. There's never been a guy that's been a champion in any weight class below 155 pounds at the age of 35. You know what I mean? Which is just nuts. So I'm just going to say it, man. Josh Emmett is going down. Like, he's beginning to decline. You know what I mean? And we're talking about some of these fights post Shane Burgos, where he had all of those injuries. Well, think about the fight against Dan Ige. Think about the fight against Calvin Kattar. He arguably lost these fights, which is why I say I don't know how the hell he worked himself up to the top of the division after all these close split decisions that could have been robberies. I feel like, for example, the Dan Ige fight. In the third round, Josh Emmett starts slipping and sliding around. His knee just gave out of nowhere, and Dan Ige wasn't even landing like a lot of leg kicks on him, and you just see Josh Emmett slipping like he just fell on a banana peel out of nowhere. Like, in the middle of his fights, he just gives out. You know what I mean? Like, the battery just runs out. And I think that's what we're going to see against a guy like Ilia Topuria that has the ability to mix it up, especially that has the ability to kick your legs, to go to the body, and to survive bad moments. And most importantly, Ilia Topuria has hustle. He out-hustled Bryce Mitchell in the last couple minutes of their last fight. It wasn't just that he dropped Bryce Mitchell with a beautiful combination. It was that afterwards, he bullied Bryce Mitchell around for a couple of minutes on the ground. He didn't just get dropped and get submitted. No, there was a lot that happened in between that. Bryce Mitchell was looking to scramble. He was looking to reverse positions. And Ilia Topuria just shut every single one of those moments down and got the better of him and just looked extremely explosive and fast twitch everywhere on the ground. And I think that a guy like Emmett isn't going to deal with this all that well. Now, of course, if Emmett lands some really solid right hand or a couple of good hooks on the chin of Ilia Topuria, we could see a finish. But, like, when's the last time he's put someone's lights out? Like, he's dropped Dan Ige, but he didn't really do a good job of following up after he dropped him. You know what I mean? The last time he got finished, before Yair Rodriguez, by the way, was against Jeremy Stephens. And he dropped Jeremy Stephens in the first round and hurt Jeremy Stephens badly, but just didn't have the best ability to land good follow-up shots on the ground. And he allowed Jeremy to survive to the final bell. Jeremy Stephens drops Josh Emmett in the second round and finishes him off. And one thing I do want to say in a defense of Josh Emmett Jeremy Stephens landed an illegal knee right on the dome of Josh Emmett, and the referee just allowed it to go on. And then Jeremy Stephens had him rocked and had a couple of follow-up shots on the ground after he dropped Josh Emmett. So that was a very dirty stoppage. But my point is, Josh Emmett has shown in many moments that even if he hurts you, it's not the end. Whereas Ilia Topuria, if he hurts you, that's pretty much the beginning of the end. Like, you're basically fucked. You know what I mean? And he has a ton of finishes throughout his career, especially when it comes to submissions. Most of his finishes outside of the UFC come from submissions. Now, of course, he's starting to fall in love with those hands, but for a good reason, because he's putting people's lights out. You know what I mean? And I just think he has more ways to win. He has more hustle. He has better cardio. He mixes it up. Most importantly, the guy's not only headhunting. That's all I see Josh Emmett really doing. He just headhunts, and it's pretty predictable. Ilia Topuria dropped Bryce Mitchell with a leg kick. Ilia Topuria, in these fight-ending sequences, is going to the body. He's one of the only guys in the featherweight division that has a lot of power in their hands that actually mixes it up in combinations, and he throws in bunches, most importantly. And he never lets you off the hook. If he lands a good shot on you, he's going to follow up immediately. So I think he's going to finish Josh Emmett, and I think he's going to get him out of there in the first or second round by KO or submission. The reason why I'm not going to say it's either a sub or a KO is because either of them are just as likely. If he drops Josh Emmett, I think he's going to look for a submission right away, like he did with a guy like Bryce Mitchell. He just went to the grappling right off the rip. Now, the way that I think Josh Emmett can win is I think he can take advantage of the head movement of Ilia Topuria. Now, one thing that I notice in Ilia's game is he's just always dipping his head off to the side. Now, of course, it's to be defensive. It's to make it hard for his opponents to find the chin, but it's predictable. He's constantly moving back and forth, and he uses that sometimes as momentum to get a good combination going. But I saw in the Bryce Mitchell fight, 10 seconds before Ilia dropped Bryce Mitchell, Mitchell landed a flush head kick. And right after that, he landed a good 1-2 down the pipe. Ilia took it well, and then Ilia tries to get his defense going again by moving his head, and Bryce Mitchell times it, throws a jab that lands flush, throws a right hand right behind it. But the issue is he just doesn't have a lot of sting behind his shots, and Ilia Topuria was throwing a combination at the exact same time. I'm pretty sure Ilia went with an uppercut into a left hook into a right hook, like those beautiful punches and bunches that we see from Ilia Topuria. And because Bryce Mitchell just doesn't have a lot of sting, Ilia can just walk through those with a combination of his own. But if Josh Emmett can hit Ilia when he's bouncing his head off to the side, he can really hurt him badly. And I think Emmett needs a KO. But again, when's the last time we saw Emmett knock anyone's lights out? Michael Johnson, Mirsad Bektik, like this was a long time ago. This is when Emmett was in his early 30s. It's been a while, you know what I mean? And all of those injuries, you know, the torn ACL, the torn MCL, the broken orbital bones. You know, he knows mentally he's far away from a title. I just don't see him getting this finish, man. And Ilia Topuria is tough as nails, bro. I feel like even if he does get hurt, his grappling is good enough to the point to where he can kind of nullify what Emmett does on the ground, and he can keep himself safe. So I'm going to be leaning towards Ilia Topuria. I can't wait for this matchup nonetheless because, again, two stubby guys with tons of power in their hands. It's bound to be fireworks. You know what I mean? Now, we could see Ilia Topuria go out there and try to take Emmett down and just beat him up on the ground because of what he saw Yair Rodriguez do. And I know that Yair Rodriguez, you know, sitting on his back and his guard is completely different than Ilia Topuria, you know, being on top of Josh Emmett, trying to establish top pressure and maybe getting a side control or something like that. We could still see him try to go out there and out-grapple Josh Emmett in the first round to tire him out, to kind of make him wilt a little bit so that he's easier to find and easier to break in the second round on the feet. And I think that's a possibility, but he's probably going to go out there and try to bang with him. And that's why I'm really looking forward to it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Who do you think is going to win this matchup? Until next time.